follow.
Hello and welcome to Trinity Talk Live, water cooler conversation from a Christian perspective. I'm your host, Ken Coughlin, and this week we are finishing off our 3-week series on Matthew 25, showing love to those in need. If you haven't caught the first 2 weeks, please go back and watch them. We did week 1 from Found in Faith Ministries, a great ministry right here in Harford County that gives furniture to people who can't afford it. Last week we were at the Welcome One Emergency Shelter. It's a homeless shelter that we and a lot of other churches here in the area help out here in Harford County that provides not just shelter but also clothing and actually some job searching assistance to people in need as well. And this week we are coming to you from the Trinity Lutheran Church food closet. We're going to talk about feeding the hungry. For those who don't remember, Matthew 25 is that story where Jesus talks about separating the sheep from the goats, and the classic line everybody remembers is, whatever you've done for the least of these, you've done for me. And so that's kind of the inspiration for this series we've been doing, is providing for the needs of people who are in need, and obviously feeding the hungry is one of those. So, I do want to make a quick mention here before we begin. Next week is an episode that we've been building up for some time. Make sure you tune in. That's when we got special permission to go film an episode at the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. that just opened up last year. We have already shot that. It's going to be a great episode, kind of a walkthrough introduction to some of what they've got there. It'll whet your appetite just enough to make sure that you want to go as well. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe now so you don't want to miss out on any episodes, especially that one coming up next week. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and get started with our Matthew 25 episode today and wrap up this series. And today I am joined by Theresa Jenkins. How you doing, Theresa?
Good.
Theresa and I go way back because before I was on the evangelism team here at Trinity, I was on children's ministry. At my last church, I had run VBS before I came over here to Trinity, and the lady who was the head of children's ministry at that time, Stacy Morse, kind of found out about this, and so she got her claws stuck in me and said, "Oh, you've done VBS before. Why don't you come join children's ministry and you'll do VBS here?" And I was like, "Oh, sure, no problem," not thinking anything, because at the time, the VBS I did was like 30 kids. And here it was like 150, 200 kids. So it was a huge learning curve, which I would not have survived without this lady over here on my right who handled all the food and everything for me, all the snacks. You were great. So anyway, but that's not why you're here today. Today we're here to talk about the food closet. So do me a favor. Why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody. Tell them something interesting about yourself.
Well, I am a mom of 4 kids, so I'm used to feeding a lot of people. I have been a member of Trinity for a little over 15 years, so a little bit of a dime here. I've served at Trinity on multiple boards. I was on children's ministry, I was on women's ministry, and now I'm on servanthood. I've done things from Vacation Bible School to being a confirmation guide to teaching confirmation classes to now being the food pantry coordinator.
You bounce around a lot.
A little bit.
You're like, you could run the church. I mean, you know everything that goes on.
No, I can't.
So we're here to talk about the food closet and kind of a bounce out where I want to talk about, obviously, specifically our closet here at Trinity, but also maybe some more general things. And I was telling Theresa before we went on the air, and I told my wife a little while ago, that most people out there that watch the show regularly know that I'm also a lawyer part-time. I work for the church part-time, and I'm a lawyer part-time. And I had a deposition about a month ago, 2 months ago, something like that, where one of the other lawyers there was actually helping to start up a food pantry at her church. And so I want to spend a little bit of time. We'll come back around to that. But she had some questions, and we were kind of going back and forth about things that she was just discovering. And I think one of the things we can do through this program is, since Trinity's food closet is a little bit, I don't know if established is the right word for it, but we might be able to shed some light, help some people that are just trying to get started in this ministry as well. But let's start talking about Trinity's food closet here. So first of all, what is your role with the food closet?
I am the food pantry coordinator for the ministry that this is. So my job as the food pantry coordinator is I handle bringing the food into the pantry, whether it's through purchasing food or getting donations from the church. I handle the reporting to the government agencies that we're required to report to, such as the Maryland Food Bank and the actual government, the Emergency Food Assistance Program, as well as the health department, because, serving food, you have to deal with them. I handle reporting as well to the church, so that there's some oversight into the food pantry, so that they're aware of what we're doing and our needs and things like that.
And how long have you been doing that?
I have been food pantry coordinator for 2 years, but prior to that, I was actually serving and volunteering at the food pantry, so about 4 years.
So tell us a little bit about, because I described the Trinity Food Closet here as being established, but of what you know of it, what's the history here of our food pantry program here at Trinity?
Well, the food pantry building as it stands now has actually only been here for a year and a half. Before that, the pantry was located up in the church, and we shared space with the church, and we were there for well over a decade.
And that's interesting. So first of all, this facility that we have right now, and maybe we'll grab a camera later and show some people around a little bit, but what is different about this facility that we're sitting in right now? We're not in the church building right now.
No, we're in a building that's separate from the church in the back of the church's parking lot, and it's a separate pantry for the customers. So we have the food storage area. We have an office here where we can do our reporting. We have a bathroom. We have a waiting area. It's actually really nice because when we were in the church, we were in a shared space. So you had people coming and going and things like that. This way, when a customer comes, they have one direct place to go to, and the building is secure. We have so much more storage than we did when we were in the church. We have a lot more storage. And so, it's a big deal, especially in the county, because we're one of the only ones that have a separate space. A lot of the food pantries in our county are shared space locations.
So it's almost like a little mini food warehouse here, I guess you could say. So it's kind of neat. So what is it that drew you to this ministry 4 years ago? What made it? Was it just somebody saying, "Hey, Theresa, what you doing this weekend? I got someplace to go."
Well, I actually started volunteering at the food pantry because my son was in middle school and was going through confirmation and was trying to find himself a little spot, a little place to volunteer, to have a little spot in the church that was an area that he would serve in. And being as he was in middle school, he didn't drive, so I was driving him. And so I'm not a mom who's just going to sit there and wait for my kid to finish. I might as well just help too. So I just started serving along with him, and then I really felt like almost an immediate connection. The thing about the food pantry is that when you serve, you see an immediate response to that serving, in the fact that someone came in, they needed food, you helped them, they got their food, and then they went on with their day. So it was a very nice place for a young youth to learn how they're serving and how it actually helps someone, because they actually saw a direct result of that serving.
Our family, I guess, had the opposite transition, whereas yours was your kid was volunteering, therefore you came in. My wife, for those of you we've talked about before, I don't know your all titles and sort it all out. I'll just say staff liaison or whatever. You guys work together, and somehow they divide up, and they know what they're supposed to do. But we were in here a little while ago. It was an order we were taking in or something like that. I can't remember what it was, and we had our kids with us, and so well, if mom and dad were in here working, then kids, you might as well come in and start working, and they did a really good job. I was really proud that the kind of was our kids' first introduction to the food pantry was through the parents. So we went the opposite way that you did. But it is a great serving opportunity because it's one of those types of ministries I find that it's, I don't know, the results, is tangible the right word, I guess? You actually
I feel like it's a little instant gratification.
Yeah.
Someone needed something, you helped them, and you saw them get the help that they needed.
And I think especially for at a younger age, like the middle school age or something like that, that's the kind of ministry that really can have an impact on them, because they see the results, almost. And so I think if you're from Trinity, this is a great volunteer opportunity. If you're from Cleveland, Ohio, then or Columbus, Ohio. I should have said Columbus, Ohio. That's where Pastor Jay's from. If you're from Columbus, Ohio, and you have a food pantry, this is a great opportunity, service opportunity, especially for everybody, but especially younger ones, to really get involved in doing Christ's work. I think is great. So let's talk a little bit about how the food pantry operates here. First of all, who does it serve?
We serve mainly the residents of Harford County, so people in our area, in our community, who are that are in need of food and assistance. And
how does somebody even, I don't know if you know this, how does somebody find out? If there's somebody out there who is in need of food and doesn't know where to turn, how do they even find out about facilities like this?
Well, the local Harford County Action Agency is where a lot of people will start when they are looking for assistance. So they're looking to apply for food stamps or utility assistance or things like that, they have a list of local food pantries that they can refer people to, and our name is on that list. Or there are people in the church who have told someone, say, oh, my church has a food pantry, if they know somebody who's in a situation where they need a little bit of assistance.
So if there is somebody who is in need of assistance and they want to come, we'll just speak of Trinity's Food Pantry right now.
Sure.
They want to come to Trinity's Food Pantry. What can they expect? What would be the process like? If they've never come here before and they're maybe hesitant, what's the process like when they get here?
Well, a person would come into the food pantry and we would ask them for some identification just to show where they live and that they are the person that is coming to get food. They would then fill out some paperwork that just says their income eligibility, and it'll ask them, do you qualify for government assistance, or do you receive any of those things of assistance? And then we would then be able to determine whether or not they're eligible to receive government food, which is the Emergency Food Assistance Program food, as well as the church food. So they're kind of two different areas of food that we serve here at the food pantry. So we serve government food and we serve church food. Everyone that comes into the food pantry that is in need will be served food. I just would have to determine their eligibility to determine exactly which kind of food they're served.
Which pocket it comes from. So not every food pantry does that. Am I correct?
Correct. Not every food pantry is a government agency such as us. So we receive food from the Emergency Food Assistance Program, which means that we have special reporting from them, and they come in and have a little bit of oversight in what we do. We have to use specific paperwork for them. Some pantries just use just their church food, so the eligibility might be a little bit different. At our church, our policy is that if you come in and you're in need, we're going to help you. So it's the eligibility is a part of the process, but it's not going to determine whether or not you're going to get food. Everyone is going to get food.
If you're in need, we're going to help you one way or another. That's
exactly
part of why we have these multiple resources available. Now, what is, you say church food, and we were talking about this before we went on the air, that I know, like, for example, when I was growing up, I grew up and went to several churches. I was a military brat, Air Force, and I went to several different churches that had food pantries, and I'm used to someone coming into the sanctuary and making the pitch, say, we need food, and I was always of the impression that the only food that got put on the shelves was the food that came in the bags from the members.
Cans.
Right. How do you get church food?
So church food is just that. It's people who have brought in cans of food and donated it to the church. And we have bins and collection areas at the church where people can bring them in when they come in to worship. But we also have members of our church who provide monetary donations that allow us to purchase food for the food pantry. So the purchased food is actually purchased from the Maryland Food Bank. A lot of people think that the Maryland Food Bank is like free food. But we actually purchase it at a significantly discounted rate. So we will pay pennies for a pound versus where you would go to the grocery store and say you buy a can of soup and it's $1. I would only pay a few pennies for that because it's based on the weight of the item and not necessarily on what the item is. So for me, if you go to the grocery store, you know that peanut butter costs more than peas. That's just it just costs more. That's what it is. But I don't pay more for peanut butter than I do for peas. I pay per pound. So the difference is the weight of the item. And so we purchase food with that money.
So even cheaper than, I don't want to call it any particular store by name, but let's just say the big warehouse stores,
Sure.
you can even cheaper than them.
I can get it significantly cheaper than them.
Are there restrictions on who's able to purchase from the Maryland Food Bank?
You have to be a Maryland Food Bank partner. It's another one of those agencies that I report to. And we are required to use a reporting thing. We have to provide quarterly reports to them. We have a contract with them that allows us to purchase food with them. We have to attend training with them that shows that we understand that we're receiving these food at a discount and that we're then providing this food to the community that we're serving.
And I want to mention something because I mentioned that I was a lawyer, and this is somewhat off topic but somewhat on topic. A lot of people ask, why are churches tax exempt? This is one of the reasons, and it's because organizations like this are helping the government do their work so that the government doesn't have to provide those resources directly. The government doesn't have to open up its own food closet in order to actually distribute the food. A lot of these government programs can provide the food to other existing entities, and that's why they're granted, one of the reasons they're granted nonprofit status is because that's the incentive to help out the government to,
Right.
to be the
Exactly.
distributors. So.
Exactly. The pennies that I'm paying the Maryland Food Bank is actually just running their operating costs. It's for them to hold the food, to sort the food, to distribute the food, to deliver the food to me. That's what those pennies are. They're not making money off of me.
Right. They don't need to make a profit.
Nope.
So their role is just to get the food to the people
Correct.
out there, and this is one cog in that machine to make that happen. So, let's say that you had someone who is, like I talked about before, who is just getting started. Maybe they're starting out their own food closet. And I don't know, does that rain? I don't know if you can hear that on the audio. Maybe you can't. If you could hear it, it sounded like it just started downpouring rain here for a second. So
it's buckets out there.
We're in a warehouse, okay? So if you hear that, you're going to hear it. So, anyway, if you got somebody who's just getting started, like this lady that I was talking to, this lawyer I was talking to a couple months ago, you've been doing this for 4 years now. What are some of the things and advice that you would give to somebody who's just getting started that maybe they're not thinking of, some of the pitfalls, whatever, that you would advise them? Oh, don't forget, you need to think about this.
You can never have too much food. Can never have too much food. Just when I think that I have so much food that week, more customers than we've ever had will come in the door, because it's a domino effect. The more people you help, the more people are in need who find out about you, who need more assistance. You really can't have enough volunteers. There's always jobs to be done. It's not just serving the food. Sometimes it's checking the dates to make sure things aren't expired. It's unpacking boxes. It's not just food we serve here. We also serve household items, toiletries, laundry detergent, things like that. So it's not always just packing food up for people. Sometimes it's also finding what other needs they have. You know, as a ministry of the church, our job isn't just to provide food. It's also to provide them with resources. So if someone is looking for furniture, we're going to direct them to the agency that provides them with furniture. If someone's looking for a job, we're going to direct them to the agency that might be able to provide, skills training or, help with resume building or things like that. There are agencies in the county that can help people. So there's always jobs at the food pantry to be done.
That's one of the points to the series we've been doing, actually, is especially again, we try to reach out to everybody who's watching, but for those that are watching from here in Harford County, if you're watching from another church and you attend another church in Harford County and you might not know these resources are out there, that's part of what I wanted to do, is to let people know that these types of resources are out there. Or if you're from somewhere else in the country, give you an idea of the types of resources that might be out there that you should go looking for, because I think we as the Christian community as a whole need to be able to do what you're talking about. We need to be able to refer people and say, okay, we're meeting this need. Maybe we can't meet that need, but we know who can, and we can point you in the direction,
Right.
So one issue I think we have first of all, you mentioned that we do have a place here in the church where people can drop off food donations.
Correct.
Where do they drop off food donations? Where is that?
Right inside the awning of the welcome into the church. So the actual main entrance to the church, there's blue bins. They say food pantry donations. They can just drop them right there.
Yeah, we used to be able to just say the entrance with the green awning, but now we have two green awnings.
Now there's two.
But one is clearly labeled as the
entrance.
school entrance, and the other one at least now says main entrance. I don't know.
Correct.
We might change that as something like office entrance or church entrance or something, because it still is kind of confusing. But there's one that says main entrance,
Right.
And in there is where it is, just in there on the right. Now, what about, you mentioned monetary donations. If someone wants to make a monetary donation, how do they do that?
They would be able to just write on the memo line of their check that it's for the food pantry, and they can drop it in the collection paste. They can also make donations online on the church website, and they have a spot right there where you can note what ministry it's for, and they can write it's for the food pantry.
All right. And if you want to mail one in, we'll put the address of the church on the screen as well. Just make sure you write the food pantry on the check so they know where to credit that funds to. We here at Trinity are blessed to have this facility, which I know there's a lot of, like you said, we're only I don't know. Do you have any idea how many people even have something like this in our area?
A separate pantry? As far as I know, I think we might be the only one, or there might be one other. There aren't very many.
Aren't very many. So a lot of people will be looking at this, say this is a goal they would like to set up. So first thing I want to ask you is, what advantages, you touched on a little bit earlier, we were talking about the history, but what advantages are there to having a facility like this that's separate and not a shared facility, inside the church building itself? such that, should churches out there, maybe long-term planning try to work something like this out?
Well, the biggest, I would say the benefit is you can serve more people. When you have more space, you can serve more people. When you're a pantry that is in a shared space, a lot of times, and we see this, we hear it from the customers that they'll go to pantries and they've run out of food. Well, because we have more space, we can store more food so that we don't run out. I mean, maybe we run out of something, but we'll never run out of food. You'll never come here and we say, I'm sorry, our shelves are bare. Mm-hmm. That doesn't happen because we have the space to store larger quantities of items. In addition, we have more of a resource area. So we have more areas where we can hang posters or provide pamphlets or have materials for customers who are maybe looking for resources or referrals. In addition, we're able to serve not just food, we're able to serve some of those household items that people are looking for. We're able to serve more frozen foods, more fresh foods, things like that, because we have the capacity to store it.
Speaking of frozen and fresh foods, so just because we have this facility, does that mean that we're done? Or do you have any future plans or aspirations for what you would like to see happen here?
The food pantry is very new. It's only a year and a half old, this building, but even when we moved in, we still had big plans of what we wanted to do in the future. So our biggest plans right now are that we'd like to add in a walk-in freezer, commercial refrigerator. We'd like to add in more shelving so we could store even more food, and that we could then provide more of the other household items, because that's definitely a needed area that we are seeing with our customers, because you might be able to receive food or you might be able to get food stamps, but it's not covering the toilet paper. It's not covering the laundry soap. It's not covering those extra items. And we want to be able to provide more of those for our customers, because that's definitely an area where people are needing it. No one should have dirty clothes.
Yeah.
No one should.
And right now we have, five standalone freezers, and then we've got a refrigerator freezer as well that has a little small freezer on top of it.
Right.
And I mean, that's the only refrigerator space we have is that refrigerator freezer.
Correct.
So, because people might be looking and say, why a walk-in? What's the difference between just having a whole bunch of standalone freezers like this and having a walk-in?
Well, it would help with our utility bills, which would cut down our expenses.
Yeah.
In addition, it would allow us to serve more. We'd have the access to store more variety of items. Right now, we might have one or two different kinds of meat items at a time. But if we had a walk-in freezer, we might be able to have multiple kinds. If we had a commercial refrigerator, we'd be able to serve cheese and milk and eggs and those perishable items that really should be a staple in every home.
As a matter of fact, I don't know what you're saying made me think of this, but you're talking earlier about not every pantry takes government food. But if there's somebody who's thinking about going that route, they do need to keep that food separate. Is that right? Correct.
Yeah, government food has to be stored separately from any food that your food pantry would purchase on its own, which we would then qualify as our church food. But the government food has to be stored separately. Mm-hmm.
So, if we got somebody in Harford County who needs the assistance, I asked you earlier about what people could expect when they get here, but when can they come here? What are the hours of the food closet?
The food pantry is open 3 days a week, and we provide a morning, an afternoon, and then an evening times. So we're open on Tuesday evenings from 6 to 7:30, on Thursday afternoons from 3:30 to 5, and then on Saturday mornings we're open from 10 a.m. to noon.
And as far as if there's somebody watching that would be interested in volunteering for a ministry like this, and I guess this would also apply to people out there who are around the country looking to maybe volunteer at a food pantry or start up a food pantry, what types of jobs are there for volunteers to do? What could they expect to be doing when they're coming here to volunteer?
We have several different jobs at the food pantry. We have the person at the front who talks to the customers and they fill up paperwork. That's a nice job for somebody who maybe has some limited mobility, because you can sit doing that job. So sometimes people are afraid because they think it's a physical job working in the food pantry, and there are positions for everybody. We have the people who pack the food, who then go around and select the different items that the customer might need or has requested.
I'm sorry, I don't want to stop there, but that's so the customers don't actually come into the closet.
No, we have someone who packs the food for them. So they'll come in and we'll provide them with approximately enough food for about 7 to 10 days.
Okay.
So it's a supplement. It's not enough for a whole month, but it's a supplement to what other food that they might already have or be able to purchase on their own.
All right. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
That's okay. And then there's something a little different that our food pantry does that a lot of food pantries don't, is then we have a person who then takes the food to the customer's car and then helps them to load it into their car. So it gives them a little bit of assistance with loading. We have found that a lot of the clientele we have are elderly, that maybe they're on a fixed income and the money isn't lasting enough to provide all the groceries that they might need. So we had found that by adding this person, the runner who takes the food to the cart for them, just helps them. Just, that's our job.
Well, it's a ministry. I mean, that's making connections with people, and I think that's one way of showing, because especially when you start, how many people do you think we help per, I don't know, month here?
We have about 125 families a month would be like a good average number. There are definitely busier months, your holidays, back to school time, things like that. Especially summertime, people kind of forget that when kids are out of school, that means instead of getting a school lunch, maybe, because some schools provide free lunch to those kids, those parents then have to provide them with lunch. So there are certainly busier times of the year, but a good average number, 150, but we could go up to 160 a month.
And I guess the danger is you want to make sure, if you're in this ministry, that you still continue to view it as a ministry. These people aren't numbers, they're people.
Right.
And I really like the idea of, taking the food out to their car for them. It might seem like a small thing, but it's not. It's
a human gesture.
Right.
You're
there's the word I'm looking for.
You're making that connection to them that, just to take one more thing off their plate, just one more thing, just help them just an extra step.
And that's the point of this 3-week series we're doing, showing love. How do you show love? And providing the needs is one way, but little gestures like that is another way to just show that little bit of extra love to somebody, I think, is what we're called to do. Or is there anything that you think that you want to mention that I didn't pick up on, anything that's occurred to you while we're talking through all of this? This is your last chance before we cut off the cameras.
I think that's everything. The food pantry it's a great job. If you're looking for some place to volunteer, it's a great job. You can do it yourself. You can do it with your family. It's a great ministry. A lot of people do that, like mentioning families coming together and volunteering all at one time. So it's a great way to be involved with your kids and be doing something and serving people in need at the same time. I think that's a fantastic observation. So, hey, and thank you very much for watching today. If you did like this episode, do me a favor. Go ahead and click the like button. That's a thumbs up button right here on the YouTube page. Like I said at the top of the show, please be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can stay up to date on everything we've got coming up. And share this video. Part of the reason we're doing this is to let people know what types of services are available in their communities. And one of the ways we can help get the word out about things like that is by sharing this video and the other two in this series as well. Don't forget, next week, again, we're going to be at the Museum of the Bible. Tell your friends about it now. Post on every social media account you've got. Let people know this episode is coming up. And then 2 weeks from now, it's all Greek and Hebrew. Literally. We have Keith and Lori Trump are going to be joining us. Keith is the author of the commentary on 2 Corinthians. They are from Trump of God Ministries, and they teach seminars on learning biblical Greek and Hebrew. And we're going to be talking a little bit about understanding the significance and the different layers that get added when you look at the biblical text in their original languages. So this coming week, fun time, fun educational Museum of the Bible. The following week, also fun and educational, because definitely educational, and the Trumps are a lot of fun. Trust me, I've known Lori since high school. So anyway, so make sure you join us for the next 2 weeks. And I would like to say one last time, thank you very much for Theresa for joining us here today. I know this isn't your comfort zone, but not at all.
I think it was great, and and this is just another way of providing a service to letting people know there's things out there. So, and thank you all for joining us. Make sure you join us again next week, and God bless. In your word we will find